Hello, welcome back guys to day 3 of the KTM 250SX conversion to a 500cc BRC engineering kit. We still have to put the cylinder together with the power valve and stuff before I can put that on. And but before I go there, let me go ahead and get the chain and sprocket back on and the carburetor back on. Well, trying to put the slave cylinder on here, but it appears for me to spin this counterclockwise here for these bolt holes to line up. This is in the way. It's hitting right here and over here, the line that goes to the slave cylinder. So what I'm going to try doing is loosening this up and spinning this a little bit and see if I can get it to fit. So fingers crossed. I don't want to have to shave anything else on this case. So let's see what this does. Well, thank God that did the trick. I just spun it a little bit, spun this just a little bit, tighten it back up, and yeah, clutch lever feels good. Everything's good here. Got the front sprocket on. Looks like he's due for a new chain. I'm sure he's got that covered, but yeah, let me go ahead and get the carburetor on now. All right, I got the power valve in. Let me tell you something. That was difficult, and I'll try to show you. It was so hard I didn't even film it for you guys. I mean, that was tough. They have this one bolt underneath here, and there's really no way to get to it and tighten it up unless you really got a short Allen key. I mean, really short. I mean, I could have cut one and made it work, but I thought I'd be smart and just pull this spring off right here and take this cup off. And that did give me full access to get that tightened, as well as these obviously were easy to get to, but to get that one tightened. So then I put the plastic cup back on, but this metal ring right here is so strong I just couldn't fish it back around here by hand. So what I had to do is I had to find something that was a perfect size, just barely to fit over this. I popped the ring on right there. It was sitting in that groove, and then I could slide it down, and I had to pop it in place. And let me tell you, that was tough. But all right, we got the power valve on, so let's move on to the next thing. All right, did a quick test fit of the cylinder just to see if the cylinder would fit on the bike and what I would have to have off of it or on it to get the cylinder on. I know I cannot have the exhaust flange on there. It won't fit. That would hit the frame, and I can't even have the cylinder head. So we have to put this on pretty much just like this, naked. This power valve is actually activated by a little hole right up in here. You see that? You see that little hole right here? That it senses the exhaust pressure. When pressure builds up in the exhaust system, it'll push this diaphragm up and open up the power valves in there. Let me get my light in here. You'll see it open and close here. So that's how that works. It's interesting. I don't think they have a cover for this, so this just sits out in the elements, the rubber and all. That's pretty interesting, but that's the way they put it together. And I still haven't figured out what this power valve cap is that I found with the cylinder when the cylinder was mailed to me. I don't know where that goes or what it fits, so we're just gonna keep moving on for now. Another thing I found out is this exhaust flange right here with the O-rings that it comes with. I could not get it. And it's such a tight fit, and the O-rings are a little bit too fat. I could not get it to go into the exhaust pipe. So again, I'm test fitting all this stuff while it's off the bike because this is not OEM stuff. You know, this is it's a kit, and sometimes kits aren't 100% perfect. So I want to test fit everything before I start trying to press hard on it, you know, when it's on the bike, trying to get things to fit. So what I'm going to try to do is find me some O-rings here that are just a little bit thinner, because I know the flange fits the pipe without the O-rings on, but with the O-rings on, I can't get it to go on, and I'm not going to sit there and beat it with a hammer. Obviously, it's an expensive pipe, so I have to be able to get it on by hand. And so let me find some smaller O-rings. All right, found a set that were just a little bit thinner, and they fit in. These are the 3 that I pulled off. So these do fit in. Of course, we'll put a little bit of RTV with it too. It's always good to do that with these. I guarantee you get no spooge. But there it is. Well, this is interesting. They're having us put studs right in here in the middle of the cylinder. I guess this big old bad motor is so big old bad that they even need studs in the middle to keep it sealed. But that's what they're having us do. I've never seen this before.
If it produces fruit, great. If it does not produce fruit, cut it up.
Actually, let me pull these back out and put a little bit of Loctite on them. That way they'll stay in, so when we go do top ends and you take the top off, we don't have to worry about the stud coming back out. Oh, nice thing about it too, these studs are, they have a little Allen, I don't know if you can see it, wait, actually on this side, right here. There's a little Allen hole to tighten it up. So let me put a little bit of Loctite on these and bottom these down. And before I forget, let me go ahead and drop a little bit of 2-cycle oil on the bearing here. Let me work that in. All right. And drop a little bit in these holes right here. That'll go right to the crank bearings. Spin that a little bit too again, and that'll just assure that on initial startup that all the bearings in here have some oil. And then take a little bit of that oil and put it right in here where the wrist pin's going to go, and that'll be good for startup. Compression right here to help kick start it, to make it a little easier, so it's time to install that. I tested it to make sure that it at least works, and it appears you press the button in to activate it, so that's how that works. Alright, let me test fit this piston real quick, just make sure it's the right size. Fitting good, that seems good. Alright, keep moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and put the piston on the bike now. Well, I guess it's important to get the rings on there first, or at least it's easier. Oh, they have 2 circlips here in the bag. Alright, let's see if these rings have a top side. It appears they do. And both these rings are the same type. There's one ring.
Has anybody ever physically died to be married to Jesus Christ? No, you die.
And here's another ring.
Jesus Christ said all men are dead.
There we go. And then typically, as you know, I like to get one circlip on before I put the piston on the bike. So what I do is I put the wrist pin in. Helps me to secure, or helps me to get circlip in. Alright. So I can use my finger on this side and keep the wrist pin from sliding through, and that'll help so it doesn't push the circlip straight through as I'm doing that. Oops. I'll start with the open end right here. On the open end right there. And just work it around. There it is. And then I slide this open end right here to where it matches that open end, so that basically both open ends are in a groove. One side's not in this little open spot. In the old days, they used to say to put this the open end of the circlip either on the top and the bottom. Back then, I mean, like on RM125s in the old days, circlips could actually pop out. But nowadays, they make these circlips very robust and very strong, so that's all you have to do now. And we have a new wrist pin bearing. Alright, let's go put this piston on the bike. Alright, I'm going to place a clean rag back down here around the crankshaft in case the circlip goes flinging-dinging somewhere. I at least don't have to worry about it that it went down in there. Especially if it flies off and you can't find it, then you're wondering, is it hiding behind the crank or where's it at? I mean, you can always replace it if it flies off, but you definitely don't want it like hiding under the crank or something.
But now look at what's happened with Moses. If you can listen to those recordings and not realize that that woman is spiritually dead.
Alright, got that in.
You would say, oh,
I have the arrow face towards the exhaust side, and the piston ring gaps will be on the intake side, so that piston is in the correct way. Your piston ring end should never be on the exhaust port side on a 2-stroke. That's not going to fly. I've seen people do it before. It don't go very far. There we go. I got that in. Alright, let's get the cylinder base gasket now.
if I failed 10 times like this, and I can stand before Christ.
This kit comes with 3 different thicknesses of cylinder base gaskets. He said go ahead and put the thinnest one on. That's going to give the highest compression ratio and also require the better fuel. You can use a fatter one if you're looking to be, you know, get away with a little bit of a lower quality feel. But he wants all the power, and he says he's going to be running C12 in it, BP C12, so we can go with the thin one on this one. But these are really thin, so you got to be careful not to rip them. All these KTM thin gaskets are really thin.
But if I could stand before the Lord and say, God, all 10 of them, Lord, and I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, I knew prophetically God showed me Elizabeth Elliott's story for a reason. And that
all right, getting that on here.
That would be the blessed unit. I didn't want to believe it. You can hear the in my recordings. I'm not a guy who's trying to escape this. I'm not a guy who's just trying to get another wife.
There we go.
And let me just say,
all right, now it's time to get the cylinder on there.
I told a friend not too long ago, I said, man, if I ever failed in ministry, I could turn around and go, I let go. Brother, he blesses you.
All right, here's where the fun starts.
You being evil know how to get rid of this. How much more will the Heavenly Father get rid of those who ask, brothers and sisters? Why would you think that God would punish the believing spouse who follows hard after Christ and who suffered on behalf of the one they loved? My future wife loved her husband, and she didn't want this to happen. This wasn't her desire to be going through what she's going through with me right now. And having to have, you know,
this is tight
with her parents. Like, guys, you're not going to believe this, but she wanted to stay married to her first husband, as I wanted to be married and stay married to my first wife. But sometimes this isn't the way it happens. You look at John Flavel; he's one of the most extraordinary Puritan writers of all the ones I've read.
I can't believe it.
And what does he write on, brothers and sisters? He has an understanding of suffering, the providence of God that's unequaled by any other. And you know something? He had 4 wives by the time he was 67 years old. 4 wives.
Something's catching her up.
God take all of his wives from him. God was glorified in his suffering.
Seems to be something in the middle here, you know? Maybe a piston ring?
My first marriage, God saved me in Christ.
Possibly.
And my second marriage, God clearly helped me to love like Christ. I learned how to love somebody who was unlovable, and I learned what the agape love of God is all about. And
there we go.
I want to tell you this.
Woo!
I now understand why eternal punishment is the only punishment acceptable to those who reject God. Because God
That
is so
was a tough one. There she is.
He is so patient.
All right, let me go ahead and get the hardware and bolt down the jug.
And when we reject this incredible gift, and she agreed to.
All right, jug's on there. Look at that big piston. All right, I guess it's time to start working on getting the cylinder head on. The rubber O-rings on this go onto the cylinder head instead of the cylinder, which means when you go to put the cylinder on, they're going to fall out. So what I'm going to do here is just use a dab of grease to kind of hold them in place as I drop these things on, or drop the cylinder head on. So let's see. I mean, I hate to get grease in the cooling passages, but you might have to do a flushing afterward. But you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. This is the only safe way that I can see to do it. So we'll just have to flush the cooling system a few times when we're done with this. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, but let's see if this hangs on. Oh, that one fell out. Put a little more grease on that one. Let me try to put some grease directly in the grooves. And this is some tacky Maxima grease too. This stuff is really tacky. Get it right up in the grooves here, and then see if this holds on better. Let's see. So far, so good. All right. Now let me just try to clean that up a little bit so we don't burn grease on the first fire. Again, it won't hurt anything, but just trying to do as clean of a job as I can. Try to get as much of this grease out of here too, so there's less grease in the actual water, the cooling system. Alright, let me try again, make sure this is holding. Yes, it is. All right, we can put that on the bike now. And since might as well put these in now. Oh, that one just fell right into place. That first one was a little tight. I already put one and it was a little tight. I'd rather have a tight one if I can. There we go. Alright, so I have them in place and the O-rings are in place with grease holding them in. Now let's go put it on the bike. You take a look at this and try to figure out which way this goes. I don't expect it to go that way. It would be this way. Yes. Alright, it goes on this way. There we go. Alright, let me go ahead and bolt her down. Well, this hose is not going to work right here. And this side of the hose is fatter and that side is thinner, as you can see. But I'm gonna have to figure out a way here of cutting it short, maybe like that, cutting it short and getting it to work. So let's see what I can come up with here. Oh, it's weird. It's weird, by the way. They did include one hose. I believe this hose is to go over the power valve to get over here to the other side. This hose right here over the power valve to get to the other side, because otherwise there's just no room in the middle here. The stock hose ran straight across, but they gave this hose that runs over. But they did not supply a hose for that I can find anywhere in the kit, so we're just gonna have to cut this one short. Alright, I got that water hose taken care of. I mean, I had to use another hose to make it work, but the exhaust flange down here, I had to remove all the motor mount bolts again because I couldn't get the upper bolts to hold the exhaust flange on. I couldn't even get access to them because the frame's in the way, and I don't want to cut the frame. So what I did, I mean, you can see how tight it is right here. I mean, the frame is right here. Let me get you down here and show you. Here, let me get light up in there. See, you can see them now that I moved the motor, but man, when the motor mounts are back in place, you can see how far they are off right here. That's what it took for me to get this thing, to get to access to these bolts to tighten them up. And like I said, you can't get the cylinder on with the exhaust flange on. I got it on. Whew. All right. I got another thing I need to figure out. I can't get the spark plug cap on. I pulled off this little piece right here, hoping that would make some room. Nope. So we might have to use a different type of spark plug cap on this thing. I mean, I just can't get it on. Wait, hold on. I don't know. Let me play with that a little bit more. Alright, I found one that does fit it. This is for RM 250 or 125, 85. So I'm going to swap this one. They're both, I believe they're both made by NGK, but this one's just not fitting. It's just too tall. So I'm going to put this one in this spark plug wire and we'll be good. Well, after looking at it a little closer, the sprocket here is ever so slightly touching the chain slider right here, which is not a big deal. It's gonna eat up its own little groove right in here, which is okay. It's not gonna actually hit the swing arm. It's just barely hitting the rubber of the chain guide here. But that tells me that these cases move that sprocket back a little bit. That countershaft, the whole countershaft is moved. The whole transmission was moved back, I guess, because of the bigger crank. So that's why the chain is so loose. At first I was thinking he's going to need to... Oh my, we got all these chickens coming in here. That rooster, man, he is mean. He's not going to roost today. But yeah, so I'm probably going to end up... Because that rear wheel is adjusted almost all the way back. So I'm probably going to end up having to take 2 links out of that to tighten that chain up. And there he goes. But I think I'll get to that after we fire her up. I want to get to the point of firing her up. So I'm going to go ahead and get the motor mount on and start working on that pipe, getting the pipe on. Plus, we still got to get this ECU on in there too as well. I have a few more things to do before I can fire her up. Okay, the motor mounts are on. That went on pretty quick and painlessly. That's good because the last couple parts of this job have been pretty tough. So it's nice to run into something that's nice and painless. Now, let me see if I can get that expansion chamber on. You know, actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and get this water hose on. Well, this supplied hose is not doing too well. It either hits the power valve here or it kinks up too much, and I can't get it all the way over that. So, you know, you would think either between the power valve here or over that, but it's not working. So let me run through my hose and see if I can come up with something. Okay, I would say this is not optimum, but it's the best that I could come up with right now. I had this hose that has some curvature to it. Was able to get over. It's not pinched up here, but it definitely oblongs it a little bit. But it should flow. So we're gonna have to figure out something for that a little later. But that's good enough for now. She should be rideable, and then maybe Matt will call BRC and see if they have an update on this or whatever, if they come up with something better than this. But the hose they sent definitely would not work. It was going to completely block the power valve from opening and closing. So we had to go over this hose to keep the power valve in here free to open and close. And before I went any further, I went ahead and did a test fit of the tank to make sure the tank's going to fit with, you know, it's close. It's real close. It pretty much kind of almost rubs on the spark plug cap. Good thing I put that smaller cap on. And the petcock right here, just close enough, just far enough to allow a hose to be put on, and it does clear the upper motor mount. So we're good there. Let's move on to getting that pipe on now. Okay, the pipe's on. Man, that sucker barely fits on. I have the top pipe springs on so far, not the bottom yet. I was able to get the bottom bolt to match up. I had to do a little bit of flexing, but I got it. This one right here doesn't match up to the motor mount yet, at least. There's a hole up in here, but it does come with like some adapter. It says it's for the silencer. I wonder if that little adapter is actually for the pipe and not the silencer. I'll show you right here. I wonder if that's because that looks about the distance that it's off. I'm starting to think that that's for the pipe and not for the silencer, but let me go ahead and get the silencer ready here and figure that out. Well, the spacer, it appears that the spacer is for the silencer, like they said, right back here. But you can't use the front mount anymore, at least with this exhaust system that he purchased here. And this Haji pipe, it does not match that mount. We're not going to be able to use that mount, at least not right now. It's also rubbing on the reservoir right here, so we're gonna have to figure something out. I mean, I'm gonna keep going with it for right now, and I'll go ahead and let Matt see if he can maybe get a hold of the pipe manufacturer and see what can be done about this, because this is not quite lining up quite right. Let's see how the Kickstarter does. No, that seems to do okay. I still have to put a bolt here, but okay. All right, we're getting close to firing up, so let's keep moving. Whew. Okay, guys, sorry I haven't been taking you step by step for the past few things I've had to do. I finally got her started. I'll start her up for you in a minute. I put the stock ECU on. I put the ECU kit from the conversion kit on it, and I kicked and I kicked and I kicked, and I couldn't get it to even fire off. I pulled off the air filter, put some gas directly in there, because we haven't did any jetting to the carburetor yet, so I was just suspicious, is it even pulling gas from the carburetor? So I poured some gas directly in there, still nothing. I pulled the ignition cover off here and tried to use this drill right here to spin the motor, because I just got tired of kicking. I got a motocross boot on. It's what it takes for this big old 500, and even then it was just tough to kick. But that thing, which can spin a 450 motor and fire up a 450 motor, would not, 450 4-stroke would not spin this 500cc 2-stroke. So I was like, dang, I got to go back to kicking. So what I ended up having to do, I started thinking, well, what I did is I pulled the spark plug out and I kicked it, and I would look at the spark, and it had spark, but Then I put that on it again without the spark plug in, so I was able to spin it. Once it got spinning quicker, I noticed the spark got stronger. That indicated to me that we might not be getting enough spark, at least on the initial startup, the initial kick on this bike, to get it to run. So at that point, I thinned out the spark plug gap to 12 thousandths to kind of take a load off the ignition system to give it a little bit more spark, and I was able to get her fired up. I'll fire up right now just to show you. The spark plug's still at 12 thousandths. I'm going to lift the spark plug gap back up to 24 thousandths in a few minutes and try again. Now that we got her running, we might get lucky. But here, let me start her up for you. Here we go. Going to auto decompress, put one on it. She's a runner, guys. So next thing I'm going to do is pull that spark plug back out, widen the gap back up to the 24 thousandths, and let's see if she'll bang off now. Okay, I have the spark plug gap set back to 24 thousandths. Let's see what happens here. Wish me luck. It won't start at 24 thousandths. You just can't kick it fast enough to get enough electrical charge to jump the gap. Let me set it back to 12 again and try again. Or have it back set to about 12 thousandths. Let's see. Yeah. Almost. So what that indicates to me is that this stator right here is not producing enough power at low RPMs to fire enough spark to fire up this big old 500cc, and that's why we have to thin up the spark plug gap to kind of relieve a load on the electrical system. That's a bummer. We're gonna have to figure something out with that. There's got to be a higher power stator that we can get somewhere, possibly. I guess we'll be looking into that, but we'll continue on with the build for right now, get her all together, and I'll let Matt sort this out. Maybe he can contact BRC. At this point, maybe they've run into this with other customers and they have a solution, as well as that exhaust pipe over there on that side where it's hitting the reservoir. Hopefully they have a solution for that too, and as well as these two hoses right here. Hopefully they have a solution for that too. So far so good. I can tell you she definitely sounds mean. I mean, I know she's going to be fast, but we gotta figure out all these little issues and get all that straightened out. So let's keep moving forward. I'm going to get this ignition cover back on and get the air filter back on and get the tank back on. By the way, you saw me running it with the tank off. What I would do is I'd put the tank on it every so often and fill the carburetor back up with gas, and a little bit of fuel will sit right in that line too, and it'll take it in. It's just enough to start, because all I'm doing is starting it for a few seconds, but it's easier that way with the tank off because the auto decompression is right here, and every so often when you'd kick it, it wouldn't fire, but this would pop back up, and it was just easier without the tank for me when I'm kicking it over and over again. Just to have the tank off, I can see when it pops back up and I can pop it back in. So that's why I had the tank off. I know there's gonna be someone comment, well, the reason it ain't starting because you don't have the tank on, it doesn't have fuel. No, it had fuel. So let's keep moving forward. All right, guys, she's all done as far as like she's complete and put together. We're still gonna have to dress that stator. She's going to need more power to be able to light up that coil at lower RPMs so she starts easier on kickstart, and we're going to have to figure out something to do with that exhaust on over here. We're going to have to figure out something to do where it's touching the reservoir right there, and this hole don't match. Other than that, everything appears to be okay. Oh yeah, we got to figure out these hoses too. There's got to these hoses in here. There's got to be a cleaner way to do this. And so hopefully BRC already has all this stuff addressed, and maybe they can shoot us in the right direction to get some of this stuff that we're going to need. Maybe they've already received complaints from other people and have some updated stuff for us. But let me fire her up one more time for you guys, and let you guys hear this thing sing. Yeah, so she's a runner. That was a lot of work. So I haven't test rode her yet. All I've done was run through all the gears while she's on the stand, make sure everything, like hit the back brake, put it in first gear, make sure the clutch is working good and everything like that, and it ran through all its gears. I haven't test rode her yet. I'm not going to ride. I'm going to save the first ride for the owner, Matt. Let him break her virginity. But I would say, if you want to do this conversion yourself, you have to be ready. This is a project. This is not just a bolt together. You're going to run into a lot of things that don't quite work out quite right. If you watch all the videos on this, you'll see that. So you got to be ready for that. I have 25 years of experience working on motorcycles, and this was challenging. So be ready for that if this is something you want to get into. Also, I just have to be strictly honest with you guys. This, to me, is not a put together and then go out and do like, 100 hot motos. This is not like a stock YZ250. You buy it, just, crank on, 50 hours before you even touch the bike for the most part. This, to me, is more of a novelty. It's for that guy that wants that 500 more as a novelty, and not to crank on 1,000,000 hours or to go do like a long FTR race out in the middle of the woods. I mean, I could be wrong. And maybe this thing's like super reliable and just holds up no matter what. But based on what I'm seeing, it's kind of more of a novelty, and it has a lot of little weird things to it. But only time will tell. What I'm going to try to do is after he gets some test rides in or at the track, I've run into him from time to time at different tracks. I'll try to do a review on this of how it actually does going around the track. Maybe get a test ride in. Hopefully he lets me get a test ride in. I'm sure he will. And I'll try to get a review on how it actually turned out. So fingers crossed that she's good and reliable. I'm hoping that's what it is. Again, it seems more like a novelty to me, but only time will tell. And so hopefully she does good. So yeah, I appreciate you guys sitting through all this, and I'll catch you later.